Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, October 30th, 2020, and I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, well, it's a very cold and rainy and windy night, and I almost did not do this video. I'm outside here in the rain and the wind. Perfect gloomy end of October night before Halloween, actually, which is my birthday, by the way. And I'm going to be 59 years young and still out here in the elements bringing you videos like I've done for so many years now. And if you haven't seen my series about the Stonewall site in the Green Mountains up there in Connecticut, in rural Connecticut, where I found all these incredible and strange things at this Stonewall site in the mountainous area there in upstate rural Connecticut. Check it out, because here you see a megalithic sea turtle effigy, and I think it's the only one ever found. I've got into a couple of arguments with people who also do this type of research, because most turtle effigies are not like this one. These four stones, giant stones, which are the flippers of this thing. I believe the center was the turtle shell had been broken down. It was made out of smaller stones. But over the centuries, things have grown in there and pushed the stones aside and around the main parts of the effigy. And here you see the head. There's even a carved eye, which I show you in this video here. You can see it clear as day, carved into the head right here. Okay, with a white quartz stone face, which no land turtles have white on their bodies at all. Only sea turtles do. The bottom of their bodies are white, certain species. And these four giant stones around are just simply the flippers of the thing. And you can see in the center where smaller stones were placed. They're all scattered on the sides, had grown out, things have grown in there over the many centuries and pushed the rocks aside. So in any case, I've been doing this for a long time and years now, and I don't have a lot of a lot of subscribers on my channel. I'm thankful for the ones that I do, because it's such an esoteric topic, the stone walls of New England. But it is the largest area of man-made stone constructions in the entire world, and nobody gets too excited about it. I don't know why. While I was up there, I lived in the area, actually lived in the forest in the area there to try to determine some of the things that were going on there. Just some incredible stuff. It was like a Disneyland of ceremonial areas there. Just incredible. So if you haven't seen it, just strange stone constructions and effigies and mounds and earthworks and just incredible stuff there. And it can be so nowhere else in New England. So I haven't seen any places like I've seen other just incredible places, but like up at Jimmy's in Vermont there, but nothing like this. There's a lot of territory there, and I cover it in like 30 something videos, something like that. So in any case, guys, let's talk about the giants in Ireland. Ireland's up next, so let's talk about them there. And just to get this out of the way, I had shown about this particularly Irish giant here. We went over this in the British giants, and because it happened to take place in Britain, it was on tour. This is when this photo was snapped. He was touring around Britain at the time. The owner was, displaying it and whatever, and considered in the British accounts there. So I'm not going over it again. It's 12 feet tall, 2 inches, and it's supposedly this petrified giant, which again, like the Cardiff giant, is going to recall, people are going to think about it in the terms that it's some sort of hoax or whatever it is. But even I went over the Cardiff giant on this channel here, and the whole thing is a hoax in respect is that they just made up an excuse for this thing, and the whole story just is just too incredible to believe at all. They were towing around a giant stone that the guys picked out, and it broke the cart, and they couldn't. And first of all, if you're going to scam the public and display, bring something around, or something incredible, or whatever it is, okay, fine, but does it really have to be something that weighs 2 tons and has to be handled in a special way and cost a lot of money? And why would you do all this stuff if it wasn't real? But maybe what we're seeing isn't petrified giants at all, but maybe actually statues for some previous civilization from a long time ago. You see in the past, even in our history that we can recall, these reliefs, these statuary reliefs on top of stone sepulchres, etc., and stone coffins. You'll see these sculptural reliefs on the top of them. What's to say these things are isn't what these things are? I'm just saying, maybe what they're digging up is statues and not petrified giants. And they're calling them petrified giants because they don't know what they are. There was no civilizations in the past that would have made these things, right? So I'm just saying it could be that what they're actually digging up is statues from the past, from some ancient past that we have no idea about, when these giant humanoids were around. They made statues probably, and they're finding these things, and this is what they're just calling it. I'm just saying it's a possibility that nobody's considered. But I'm considering it, okay? I hope it's okay that I do that. Some people don't like it because they're stuck even on the mainstream alternative stuff, that they've been hearing for, decades and whatnot. So, look, I see things in different ways. I see different possibilities on this channel. I don't know if you do or not, but I hope you do. I would imagine that many of my subscribers tend to think along those ways. This is some, illustration of that, for that same giant in this rail yard here where they're storing it, with giant crates on top of the coffin-shaped packing case containing the alleged petrified giant lies in the goods yard with a great crate on top of him lest he tries to come to life. Hardy har har. So in any case, this is just part of that story about how it got held up there in Britain, and who knows whatever happened to it. And it's just sad that much of our history was based on all these people who are exploiting these things for show purposes and whatnot. And we don't have them today because of it. And they were all called hoaxes and probably broken up with sledgehammers and thrown in the garbage at some point. Who knows? Maybe they are petrified giant. Well, how about if it was that? It doesn't matter. They all, disappeared, and we have no way of looking at these things now, unfortunately, for us, because of our stupid ancestors. 10-foot high skeleton, and that's an awfully big fellow. And again, 10-foot high skeletons. Okay, so 10-foot high guys. Do you think they would have an easier time moving around big giant stones, or would it be easier for us? Well, we know how easy it is for us, but can you imagine if you were 10 foot high and had the strength of an elephant or something like that? That maybe you didn't need to build all kinds of contraptions and all kind of stuff. All you had to do is call a couple of your buddies, and you all lifted it up and placed it up on top of something else, or build some scaffolding or whatever it is. Okay, so look, many of these megalithic things in the past that you thought were built by us weren't built by us. They were built by some strange large humanoids in the past. And we always trying to figure out how we did it. Well, what a waste of time. What a rabbit hole to go down forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay? So, when it was really built by these large humanoids, and, we're never going to figure it out unless we concentrate on that. 10-foot high skeleton, a giant skeleton. An interesting discovery was recently made in Ireland. During the course of some excavating work, two men unearthed three human skeletons. One was entire and measured 18 inches from the crown of the head to the chin. Brachiocephalic, maybe? Like the Bell Beaker people. The leg bones were abnormally large, and altogether the skeleton appeared to be that of a person 10 feet high. The teeth also were large, and the remains are supposed to date from a prehistoric age. Oh, why would it have all its teeth? This ancient skeleton shouldn't have decayed and all this kind of stuff. I guess not. What kind of diet did they have? People 200 and 300 years ago had horrible, horrible teeth, but they sure didn't have a lot of confectionaries and all kinds of sugars in their diet and all this kind of other stuff. What was rotting out all their teeth? Well, it's red meat, folks. That's what rots out all your teeth, okay? It gets stuck between your teeth, creates decay, and you never get it out of there. And, before you know it, your teeth are all rotted. And when they start to rot, everything attacks it. And you're done. Once you get all these other, diseases and whatnot, horrible things. But how come these people didn't get it? What were they eating? All the dentists that find them forever, all these accounts were saying forever that they were vegetarians. They were vegetarians. Okay, dentists look at it. They know about decay and what it's caused by and all this kind of stuff. And, they were saying to themselves, why? They must have been vegetarians. Why would they say that? Okay? But, people who, whatever today, watch videos and don't read much of anything and just say, hey, they're cannibals and all this kind of other crap that, it just doesn't make any sense from a scientific standpoint. Besides the fact that all these giants seem pretty sophisticated. Who could have wielded a 64-pound hammer? Well, I don't know about you, but as far as I know, nobody. Okay, can't wield a 64-pound hammer. And again, back to my sea turtle there in Connecticut. All right, it's reported that all these cultures, all these native people's cultures from these areas, like the Pequot Indians, are all related to maritime cultures. People with harpoons and they're hunting whales and everything. Every time we say that there's a whale effigy or a sea turtle effigy like this, they're like, no, it can't be, or whatever. Meanwhile, all these burials were found with giant harpoons in there. With you, what do you need harpoons for? Giant harpoons. What to hunt? Trout. Stream trout. I don't think so. Okay. Can't argue with wrestle with pigs. There's an ancient copper mine near the coastal town of Llandudno in North Wales. This area rises 220 meters above the Irish Sea and is known as the location of the Great Orme copper mine. It dates to the Bronze Age, about 3,500 years ago. More than 2,500 hammers at the mine have been recovered. It is believed that the mine stretches for many kilometers, with 6 kilometers already surveyed. Well, I guess they're not doing any more surveying, or they got a lot left to go. Boy, it sure takes an awful long time. It is known to have 9 levels within it, and over 1,700 tons of copper are known to have been removed from the mine. This is quite a staggering accomplishment for a society of that era without the use of power tools, at least as we know power tools today. Yeah, just like the people up there in the Michigan Peninsula who mined over 500 million pounds. That's a little bit more than 1,700 tons, folks, and they don't know where it went. That went over those Indian highways and byways there at the time the Dina got shipped off around the world. The largest typical sledgehammer used today weighs 20 pounds, though sledgehammers in the 10-pound class are more commonplace. A grown man without back trouble yet can wield a 20-pound hammer, but only for limited amounts of time. That is, unless smashing masonry and demolition is his livelihood. In that case, he might do it for several hours at a time. This author owns a 10-pound sledge, and the only words to describe using it are misery, sweat, and pain, and not necessarily in that order. It's very hard to imagine using one of these for mining day in and day out. Okay, so I don't know what he's showing here, but 20-pound sledgehammer. A head-on hammer is about the size of a standard house brick. Standing up, the handle is about 3 feet long. The 60-pound sledgehammer is not currently manufactured. The handle would be 9 feet long, with the metal head about the size of a cement block. An even bigger 64-pound sledgehammer was found at the copper mine by archaeologists. To lift this 64-pound hammer using only the far end of the 9-foot-long handle would be beyond the strength of any man. To swing it with force would be virtually impossible. And it's showing a 1940s strongman. That was that picture. So who or what could have wielded one of these backbreakers? If we scale up the size of the ancient people so they could use this tool, the giants of the copper mine may have been perhaps 12 to 18 feet tall, or about 3 times taller than the average human being of today. To put this in perspective, the height of the wall in an average home in the United States built within the last 50 years in any given room is just 8 feet. Perhaps these are the people referred to in the Bible in Genesis, where it says there were giants on the earth in those days. Yeah, perhaps. Okay, so this is from Arts in Ancient High Technology by Ted Twytmeyer. 64-pound hammer with more than 9-foot handle will be on display at the museum, Greater Ancestors World Museum. That's the one that Chris Leslie, the moderator of the site, hosts. I don't know where it is, but I'd love to go visit it. Simcoe, 28 feet skeleton. Simcoe, Ontario. Okay, skeletons 8 feet long. I don't know. This is not it. This is from a different article. It's from Canada. Slievemore, Ireland giants. Forgotten part of Ireland. To illustrate old-time Irish life in that part of Ireland, separated from the mainland by a narrow strip of sea where mingle the waters of Clew Bay and Black Sod, and which is called Achill Island. The writer of this sketch can adduce much evidence. Slievemore, within Ireland at its northwestern extremity, justifies its name of Big Mountain, quote unquote, by raising its head only a few feet above that of its neighbor and rival Crochon, which almost 2,000 feet high with the tips of its toes in the ocean, has some of the finest cliff scenery in Europe. The quote-unquote Big Mountain, which presents a conical appearance when viewed from the island, impresses the spectator from the sea with the conviction that half its mass must have one time slipped into the Atlantic, which roars and tumbles around it. It shelters from the Atlantic storms a beautiful village called the Colony, quote-unquote, or settlement, which calls for further mention. Further inland, there is a large space sacred to Irish archaeologists, containing in the shape of a druid's altar various cromlechs and stone circles, some of the most interesting archaeological remains in Ireland. Celtic scholarship has not yet said the last word on these wonders of a dim antiquity, but there is a consensus of opinion to claim this as a pagan cemetery where lie the mighty bones of ancient men. Some years ago, while excavations were being made in the neighborhood, human bones of giant proportions were unearthed and were immediately carried off by a gentleman of antiquarian taste who happened to be about the place. On the evening of that day, a storm, which as rarely visits even the storm-swept island, was let loose. The frightened villagers assembled in council and sent a hurried deputation after the profaner to have the bones returned and laid to rest once more. So here's an interesting story about the people getting afraid. After the skeleton was removed, they disturbed the bones of the dead, and these people wanted it put back again. And we heard that in the accounts in the Americans, believe it or not, where these people did not want these bones disturbed. They wanted them put back once they were dug up again because they feared bad luck or whatever it is. So look, this is how some of these people felt back then. And actually people who didn't want these things dug up back in the past, believe it or not. So in any case, on to the next one. Dysart Loud, 3 10-foot giants. While men were digging foundations for laborers' cottages at Dysart Loud, they unearthed 3 human skeletons in separate graves encased with stones. One skull is entire and measures 18 inches from the crown to the chin, The leg bones are abnormally large. The remains appear those of a person 10 feet high, presumed to have lived in a prehistoric age. So this is another account. They're saying it's from a different place now, or just we have another one. So, found huge Irish skeleton. Remains indicate the person was 10 feet in height. So this is all just corroborating the same account, but to show that I guess it traveled across into several publications. And there's another one of these accounts of this 10-foot guy, and apparently the place was filled with 10-foot guys. Huge skeletons at Four Knocks. Ancient Irish were giant men, Mound discloses. So it's a mound, okay? We never hear about these mounds, but in this one we hear about mounds and also giant remains. So, you know, how much similar can you get to the Americas here? And, what is happening here? What kind of culture are we talking about? Are we talking about a culture that existed across the Americas and into Europe at one time in the far, far ancient past? Well, that's not the picture of the past that we see, we're given today by mainstream academics. So, got to think about what was really going on in the past. And that seems to be what it was. Dublin, an ancient burial ground discovered on the lands of a farmer at Four Knocks, County Meath, is being studied by officials of the National Museum. They've been working at one of the four mounds. Their work already has revealed subterranean passages and chambers similar to the world-famous caves at Newgrange, 8 miles away. During recent weeks, the little village of Clonalaby has been thronged with people from all over the country who have come to view the excavations. The date of some of the finds has been established at from 1500 to 2000 BC. The chief discovery so far is a 15-foot passage leading to a circular chamber in the center of the mound. 3 small alcoves. The chamber, which is 15 feet in circumference and 18 feet from floor to roof, is constructed by overlapping flagstones and contains 3 small alcoves arranged in cruciform plan. Each alcove is roofed with a 300-weight slab and decorated with unusual workings similar to those at Newgrange. On the floor of the chamber, small pebbles were found scattered around. The latter were drilled and are believed to be remains of necklaces typical of the period. The large quantities of the residual the residue of cremated bones and charcoal which were found also bore witness to the great extent to which the chamber had been used as a crematorium. Many interesting specimens of skeletons were discovered in the passage, which is 7 feet high. Skeletons huge. 2 of the skeletons were larger in height and width than the largest present-day man. Excavations on the surface of the mound reveal several shallow graves containing the skeletons of both babies and adults. The graves, which were made of stone slabs, also contain earthenware urns characteristic of vessels dating from 2000 BC. In the urns were powdered substances believed to be the residue of food, which usually was left beside the body in accordance with ancient custom. Several stones bearing peculiar markings were found in the earth near the graves. To date, only one of the 4 mounds, hence Four Knocks, has been explored, and research work on the remaining 3 will begin shortly. Okay, so these mounds were excavated. They found these 7-foot passages and these alcoves and these skeletons in there, and they were huge. All right, so, it definitely sounds like some of the things that we heard about in some of the accounts in America is, again, with pebbles. These people were often buried in sand and gravel and these sort of even type size stone or material, but never in dirt, really. Okay, otherwise they're in wooden bark coffins and wooden chambers, stone chambers, stone coffins, whatever it is. They were found with these constructions, either stone or wood, never buried directly on dirt, often with material underneath them, sometimes a lot of ashes and cremated things or whatever underneath them as well. So it sounds so similar to the accounts we've heard about looking at the giants in the Americas. Island of Hibernia. Traces of ancient giants unearthed in Ireland. I think some of these, like this one, is from like 1950 or something like that. They're well into the 20th century. By Derry Moran, United Press staff correspondent, Dublin. Irish archaeologists have unearthed traces of a bygone race of quote unquote Supermen. The findings may provide scientific substantiation for legends of a race of 7-foot giants who inhabited the island of Hibernia, Ireland, in its golden age, long before the dawn of history. In a prehistoric burial chamber dating back to 2000 BC, they found human skeletons which tower head and shoulders over modern man, stretched in slab-top graves with offerings of food and ornaments beside them. Most are around 7 feet in height, an extraordinary width of shoulder, and massive bone construction. Doesn't sound like anybody suffering from acromegaly or gigantism to me. In the yellowed pages of Irish folklore and mythology, 7-foot giants stride gloriously through a quote unquote land of milk and honey, battling strange monsters and performing fantastic deeds of physical strength and endurance. Okay, so when I say this about the dolmen and megalithic constructions that are here in the Americas, and dolmen just about anywhere, I'm saying that they're feats of strength. I get so much criticism for saying these things. Meanwhile, you're hearing what these people are determining these things are from the past. Why, if it's that way over there, then it's this way over here. So many of the dolmen, like the one that Jimmy and I found on Mount Ephraim in Vermont, okay, were not particular constructions to signify, a grave or anything like that, but simply tests of physical strength that these giants would go through with when, handling the stone, okay, because that's what they did. So wouldn't you think being, the strongest guy who handles stone or whatever it is, would give you, creds in your society. Okay, so this is what these people were up to in the past, and they dealt in, they had the craft of cutting stone, using stone, whatever it is in the past. Okay, this is what these giants were all about. And that's why I say that they are probably the ones, most likely, were the ones that did all these megalithic constructions in the past, and not us, not Homo sapiens, okay? Whoever these hominids were or humanoids were, okay, they were the ones. Their branch, okay, their subspecies of hominid or whatever it is that died out when some drastic cataclysmic changes happened to this planet, okay, some 11,000 years ago. This is when they started to degrade because their cell structure in their bodies could not handle the different environment. This is what nobody says any of this stuff, folks. I'm trying to make scientific sense out of the past for you. But I'm roundly criticized because people would like to rather believe in the History Channel, phony, fantastic tales, and everything that's been talked about for the past decades, even the alternative branch. They're not giving you the straight story here, folks. All right? In the yellow pages of Irish, okay, so I said physical strength and endurance and terrifying. Okay, so I don't know whether the article got cut off or not. It seems like it did. And terrifying rumblings coming from within. I guess it was in the cave. In July of this year, however, the Mound surrendered peacefully and silently their hidden treasures to a team from the National Museum. The burial chambers at Fort Knox, Clonliffe, County Meath, are not far from the historic hill of Tara, scene of the court of the ancient kings of Hibernia. Dates established. The date of the most of the findings have been established as between 1500 and 2000 BC, and Dublin archaeologists reckon it to be one of the oldest burial grounds in Europe. The chamber, which is 15 feet in circumference and 16 feet from floor to roof, is constructed from overlapping flagstones and contains 3 small alcoves arranged in cruciform plans. So it's repeating the other article, but they got into it a little bit more. So, and, about these feats of strength, which is, a particular note to me because I've gotten into it with other people, who kind of scoffed at that notion or whatever here in the Americas. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing. All right. And for good reason. I'm starting to put the history together of the giants, and this is one of the things that they did. The Nog giant skeleton, giant Nog skeleton. An extraordinary discovery is reported from Nogs. Some workmen were occupied in raising sand from a pit on the side of a hill at the back of the police barracks at a place called Beechwood. When they came to the depth of about 30 feet, they discovered buried in the sand a human skeleton of almost gigantic proportions. A physician who took a photograph expressed the opinion that the bones belonged to a prehistoric age. So this is 1902. In 30 feet of sand, again, the sort of medium that they buried these people in could be from different time periods, but we heard so many times in the Americas of these really big skeletons, like 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 feet tall, being buried in these sort of gravel mounds and gravel pits, okay, where all this sort of even-sized stone are in there or whatever, but never directly in the dirt. Okay, and sometimes within those things, even chambers and other kind of stone coffins and bark coffins, all this kind of stuff in these gravel pits and gravel mounds. And here we hear about sand. Light slip, 10-footer. A gigantic skeleton. The following paragraph from the Dublin Freeman's Journal of August 1812 seems to show that the men of gigantic stature were not unknown in Ireland in prehistoric times. It is not a little surprising, considering our veneration for Irish antiquities, that no notice should be taken of the skeleton recently disinterred at Lightslip. This extraordinary monument of gigantic human stature was found by two laborers in Lightslip churchyard on Friday, the 10th alt, when making a kind of sewer near the Sandhon Leap for conveying water by Mr. Hayes' orders. It appears to have belonged to a man of not less than 10 feet in height. It is believed to be the same mentioned by Keating, fellow Motul, buried in Lightslip churchyard near the Salmon Leap 1252 years ago. In the same place was found to be a large finger ring of pure gold. There was no inscription or characters of any kind upon it, a circumstance to be lamented, as it might throw a clear light upon this interesting subject. Our correspondent saw one of the teeth, which was as large as an ordinary forefinger. Okay, so real big guy, 10-footer guy with this large ring, golden ring found there. Okay, so giants wearing golden rings, and then what? Eating, Jack. I guess if you want to get rid of the giants, you just tell a lot of bad lies about them. Fort Knox, Irish. So this is going over Fort Knox again, and these subterranean passages and chambers similar to the world famous caves at Newgrange. Okay, so it's Newgrange, also about the giants. There's giants everywhere talked about in Ireland there. Okay, these ancient supermen. Okay, reporting the same thing basically, and some of this in the American press. Okay, so I'm sure there are more accounts in Ireland, and many times I hear from the people over there in either Britain or Scotland or Ireland that they have their own local giants that are associated with their towns. These people who lived in the past, who were of giant stature at a time that we all know from mainstream research that anybody before 1800 that would be 6 foot tall or better would tower above people of average height back then, who were some 5'3" to 5'5", with the Irish being a little taller on average at 5'6" or 5'7". Okay, and that average human height had not changed since the Stone Age, according to them. Okay, this is mainstream academics. Had not changed. So if it hadn't changed for us since the Stone Age, so 1800, and we've only grown 10 centimeters from 3.3 inches or something like that on average worldwide in height. Now we're 5'8". Okay, not anywhere near 6 foot. All right. There has to be an explanation for races of people who would be this tall. Okay, just good diet, good health, and good exercise are not going to make you grow to be 10 feet tall. Something else was going on. Okay, start thinking more about gravity, unless even if the oxygen was plentiful. Okay, because of biology that concerns itself with gravity. Okay, and I've gone over this on this channel, the mainstream academics research on this. Okay, with the kind of research that was done in space with zero gravity and cells and how they grow in different gravity. Okay, cells grow bigger in a less intense gravity, and cells grow smaller in a more intense gravity. Okay, so any kind of gravity that would allow larger cells to be created in the past, and they've considered it. Mainstream scientists consider this because they can't really figure out how did the dinosaurs or even some of these megafauna from even the recent past, the Pleistocene, the Holocene, how they even moved around in our gravity. They were so huge. Okay, so in any case, that's it for Ireland, guys. It so happens to be up one day before Halloween, and Halloween pretty much originated in Ireland with the hollowed out turnips there instead of pumpkins. But jack-o'-lanterns when they got to this country, because pumpkin was so easy to carve out, and the whole Celtic festival, that has to do with Samhain. And it's funny that out of people are all different kinds of things for Halloween, for sure. But it's funny, nobody ever really is a giant for Halloween, right? There are all kinds of monsters and characters and comic book characters and monster characters and all this kind of stuff. Nobody's ever really a giant. The only place you might see a giant is in like the Halloween parade in New York City, which I doubt they're even having this year. I don't know, because I don't pay attention to the news at all. But they're probably not having it. But that's like the best parade ever, is the Halloween parade. And that's where you might see giants or something like that, in the Halloween parade, with all these Broadway people who are costume makers and set designers and everything. And that community, they come out with some fantastic things for the Halloween parade. All right, guys. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed those accounts from Ireland there. There wasn't a lot of them. They kept on going over the same one, more or less, again and again. But I'm sure there are others. Like I said, many of these towns have their pet giants and whatnot from the past. So think about what was going on. It sounded like the skeletal remains they found were brachiocephalic, again, with the Bell Beaker people. That's who they're talking about here. And we're probably going to see more of that in the countries that are coming up. All right, guys. Anyway, if you've liked it, please hit the like button. And if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. You're going to hear some very original ideas and thoughts on this channel. Anyway, guys, Bugcat7 signing out from this rainy, stormy night. Peace.